Isreal Hamas War. This is one of the biggest stories right now besides the Russia-Ukraine war. Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel has been seen as the strongman of Israel for decades. As a politician, he has based his political appeal on security. With such a huge security breach, the question is, could this be the end of his political career? The backdrop to this is almost a year of ongoing protests, political turmoil over judicial reforms and policies of Netanyahu's government. The weak link has been identified as the internal wranglings which the Palestinians fed into to launch an attack on Israel. You've heard and seen retaliations, and to quote the Israeli defense minister, Gaza will never go back to what it was, after which he orders a full siege and blockade of Gaza. This means no water, food, fuel, or electricity. The Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says, in quote, "Will turn their places to rubble, will destroy Hamas and avenge this dark day." To better understand the Israeli-Hamas conflict, one must ask what happened.
The attack in Israel was carried out by Hamas. It's a Palestinian Islamist militant group which doesn't recognise Israel's right to exist. It's based in Gaza, a narrow strip of land next to Israel, which is home to 2 million Palestinians. And in 2007, Hamas took control there after winning elections the previous year.
Hamas, which is a designated terrorist organization, invaded Israel mainland, not Israel or Jewish settlements on the West Bank. Israel mainland as inherited in 1948. Gazans broke through the wall that the Israelis built along the border with Gaza, a very expensive border that cost more than $1 billion to build. This offensive happened on a day of a big annual festival in Israel. That is how the formidable Israel intelligence agency Mossad was caught unawares. The second point to understand now is what went wrong. Israelis have been fighting wars forever in this region. Let's not even go back to the last 60 years. Let's take a look at the last 20 years, starting from 2006, 2008, 2009, 2012, 14, 18, and 19. 2022, when trouble took place at Al-Aqsa Mosque and Israeli settlements were attacked. That's how much Israel has been fighting for its existence. Again, let's not forget, Israel boasts globally of having the best technology in the world for intelligence espionage and the best defense system. So at this point, I'll lean on what Nahum Bania, a top award-winning Israeli journalist and commentator, and he pointed out that 4 blunders have taken place. Intelligence failure. How was the border breached? How did Hamas manage to take hostages into Gaza? How were they not stopped? Why were Israeli defense forces slow in their reactions? Intelligence failure, some say, comes with informations and warnings that are ignored. Egypt's spy chief says an Egyptian intelligence official on Monday said his country had warned the Jewish state Israel repeatedly about something big happening shortly. The fence. Let's talk about the fence. The fence is an expensive and technologically advanced fence. The salient thing to note is that the fence is unmanned. Israel wasn't prepared for the crowd that trooped in after the breach. Hamas carted away with an Israeli battle tank. But let's take a look at Hamas again. How did Hamas motivate people and justify the attack to the point of taking hostages? This operation from Hamas was named Al-Aqsa. Al-Aqsa is the second holiest place for Muslims. It is also the place where clashes between security forces and Palestinians break out routinely. But the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023, clashes have been really bad, especially in the month of Ramadan as worshippers were attacked. Al-Aqsa remains a sensitive site in Palestine-Israeli conflict. It is considered as the 3rd holiest site by Muslims after Mecca and Medina. And many say that is why and that is how Hamas is finding such a wide support from the Arab Islamic world. Hamas has tied this operation to what has been happening at Al-Aqsa Mosque. In social media, you see and you have seen images, videos of Israelis who have been killed, maimed, dragged, taking us hostages.
It was pure terror. I couldn't feel anything besides being completely scared for my life. One moment we're running away from missiles, and the next moment we're running away from bullets. There's no way to actually understand that someone is actually shooting at you. And people from all around were crawling towards us because they were injured. In a split decision, I basically told everyone to get in the car. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know who was there. I just told everyone I could to get in the car. And once the car was full, I just backed up and turned around. They were all around us. It wasn't really helpful to try and drive away, but the lucky thing was that we were in a really strong car. I honestly did not think I was going to make it. It was pure instinct. I was a combat soldier in the army, and honestly, it was pure instinct that got us out of there. We saved 3 other people that were there and wouldn't have made it out either because their cars were broken and they couldn't drive. That's where they crawled into my car. Hundreds of people at the party itself. People came to rave and enjoy themselves. They weren't with weapons. They had no way to defend themselves, and they just came into the party and shot everyone. We have nothing to do with politics. We have nothing to do with anything that has to do with war. We're people of peace, and they were just murdered for dancing in the nature, and that's all.
But the immediate response from critics of Israel is that it is in defense of what Israel has been doing to devout Muslims and Arabs, children and women. This is how Hamas has been able to justify her offensive. Clearly, Al-Aqsa Mosque is central to this mayhem and the complexity of East Jerusalem, where the Arab population is strong. The status of East Jerusalem remains uncertain. Some of these areas are still under Palestinian Authority, and that's where some of these clashes break out. Al-Aqsa Mosque is special both to Jews, Christians, and Muslims. This piece of real estate is among the holiest real estate for the 3 Abrahamic faiths, especially during religious festivals. For example, the Passover, Easter, and Ramadan can happen in the same month or days apart, and tensions will be high at such times. The Israel-Hamas conflict has people divided. Some analysts liken South Africa's apartheid history to occupied Palestine's reality. That's why some people argue that there is nothing surprising about Hamas' operation. Israel Palestine is a contentious issue. It is one of the hardest topics to broach. What makes it difficult? Well, it depends on where you start the story from. The West Bank is occupied and has been for the past 56 years, becoming the longest occupation in modern history. A human rights group call it the world's largest open-air prison. Gaza has been under a full Israeli-led land, sea, and air blockade. Some Africans have likened Israel's occupation to that of the apartheid system, which was built upon South Africa's history. It was about racial segregation between the ruling white minority and non-white majority, where one group is deprived of political and civil rights. And let's not forget, Israel has one of the most powerful militaries in the world, most advanced defense systems. Crushing Palestine would not be that big a deal. Now, which side of the divide do you stand? Leave your comments, your feedback, like, and subscribe. There has been different responses to this conflict from world leaders. The EU, the US, and Britain condemned the attacks while pledging support to Israel. In a joint statement, the leaders of France, Germany, Italy, Britain, and the United States condemned Hamas' attack, calling them acts of terrorism that had no justification. However, the Latin American countries are also responding to Hamas attacks on Israel. Although most leaders in Latin America have condemned the attacks, there has not been a unified regional response like with Russia-Ukraine war. Some leaders, such as Mexico's Andrés Manuel López, profess neutrality. Others, like Colombia's Gustavo Petro, criticize Israeli government. The Israeli Hamas war divides Southeast Asia as trade, religion determine responses. Singapore strongly condemned the attacks on Israel, while politicians in Malaysia and Indonesia come down firmly on Palestinian side. The outbreak of war between Israel and Hamas has caused divisions to reappear across Southeast Asia, where Muslim-majority countries historically align with Palestine, but trade interests, including buying weapons, have kept other nations on Israel's side. In a brief statement Sunday, China's foreign ministry called on relevant parties to remain calm, exercise restraint, and immediately end the hostilities. It repeated Beijing's support for a two-state solution to establish an independent state of Palestine as a way out of the conflict. The head of the African Union has appealed for an end to the conflict between Israeli forces and the Palestinian military group Hamas, which has killed hundreds on both sides. Musa Faki Mohammed called on both parties to return without precondition to the negotiating table to implement the principle of two states living side by side. Conflicting reports in North Africa, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, as across the Arab Muslim world, reactions to the Hamas offensive against Israel vary according to the country's ties with Israel, but authorities have to contend with a public opinion that is universally committed to the Palestinian war. Hamas's unprecedented and deadly attack on Israel has elicited varied responses within South Africa's political scene. The diverse reactions reflect the long history since before democracy in 1994. The conflict holds symbolic significance for many in the country. The South African government, led by the African National Congress (ANC), characterized recent events as devastating escalation. However, it primarily attributed the situation to Israeli policies, including the continued illegal occupation of Palestine land, continued settlement, expansion, desecration of Al-Aqsa Mosque and Christian holy sites, and ongoing oppression of the Palestinian people. The ANC put out its own statement in the name of the party. The party's national spokesperson, Malengi Bengu Motsiri, defended Hamas's actions. Its statement read, "It cannot be disputed that South Africans' apartheid history is occupied Palestine's reality. The decision by Palestinians to respond to the brutality of the settler Israeli apartheid system is unsurprising." Conversely, the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, a far-left Pan-Africanist party, which was formed after a split from ANC and is now the third largest party in parliament, endorsed Hamas's use of violence, drawing parallels with the anti-apartheid struggle. Unwavering support for Palestinian nationhood has remained a steadfast element of South African foreign policy since the ANC came into power in 1994. This stance has seen South Africa become one of the most prominent voices critical of Israel globally.
In your numbers, as you can see, this is the National Executive Committee. All of us standing here pledging our solidarity with the people of Palestine. We stand here because we are deeply concerned about the atrocities that are unfolding in the Middle East, and we have passed our condolences to the people of Israel as we are passing our condolences to the people of Palestine. And we have a full understanding of how the people of Palestine have taken up this issue, because they are people, as many countries and leaders in the world have opined, that they have been under occupation for almost 75 years. And people under occupation who have been waging a struggle against an oppressive government that has occupied their land, but also a government that has in recent times been dubbed an apartheid state. As people and an organization that has struggled against an oppressive system of apartheid, we do pledge solidarity with the Palestinians And as the African National Congress, we have always pledged our solidarity with them, and we've always insisted that the only solution for the problems in the Middle East, particularly between Israel and Palestine, is a two-state solution based on the 1967 borders as approved by the world community and the United Nations. Now, the violation of the rights of the Palestinians, that has manifested itself through the occupation of their land, through bringing in settlers so close and into their land, is something that is causing a great deal of concern and has possibly sparked off this conflict that is now unfolding. The atrocities that are happening now, where the residences of people in that part of the world are being razed to the floor, pregnant mothers are not even able to give birth in a respectable manner, hospitals are being razed to the floor. But the worst part is when the Israeli government now says 1.1 million people must evacuate the northern part of Gaza. Having closed all the exit routes, we do believe that this is a serious matter of great gravity and concern. And to this end, we've called on the international community, the United Nations, and all other concerned international bodies to make sure that peace is installed in Palestine and that the Israeli government is directed at withdrawing this command of getting people out of the northern part of Gaza.
In West Africa, Kenya and Ghana issued some of the most strongly worded statements in support of Israel. Kenya's President William Ruto, seen as a key Western ally, called for the international community to take action against perpetrators, organizers, financiers, sponsors, supporters, and enablers of what he described as criminal acts of terrorism. Ruto also called for ceasefire. In conclusion, do you look at symptoms or causes of the problem? Attacks and strikes on civilian population is strongly condemned and unacceptable. 260 people attending a peaceful music festival machine-gunned by terrorists with machine guns. Where is this justified? One should condemn. Nobody has the right to commit acts of terrorism. Is it the way to go to get a peaceful settlement? Will we see a two-state solution or one democratic state with both having human rights and entitled to equal human rights? I hope for a reasonable solution. And one would also ask, is there value and power in non-violent resistance? What are your thoughts? What's going on? What can be done to bring peace between Israel and Palestine? Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and leave your comments. Thank you.